Hey guys, welcome back to Digital Artcast. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode. I'm hoping you guys have enjoyed the last couple of interviews that I've put up on the channel. Most recently, we had Jose Vega, which was a really amazing talk. I felt a really honest conversation. Typically on this channel, we have tried to interview people from the entertainment industry, people who have contributed to projects or have been artists themselves involved in production, concept artists, 3D artists, character artists, all that kind of stuff. Today is probably quite unique in the sense that we have a co-founder and kind of CEO of a company that is involved in the entertainment industry, but possibly not directly, but still is a very large part of it, and something that's very familiar to a lot of people who are part of the industry, who are part of the news cycles of the industry. And I thought this was a great opportunity to get him involved in a conversation to really delve into, what makes, in particular, his business tick, and of course, why it was founded and what maybe even their plans are moving forward, because I know recently they have also kind of revamped and rebranded. So today we have a really special guest on, and I hope I am not going to butcher his name. Can you please welcome along Mr. Kirill Tokarev? Did I get that right?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Was great. It was quite an introduction.
Well, I mean, your website, your company is, I would say, one of the key cornerstones of the entertainment industry. And I think, people of your caliber need some kind of introduction, some kind of hype. So
thank you, man. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Yeah. So the website in question we're talking about is 80 Level, which has now been a website for how long have you guys been up and running?
I think it's like 5 years.
5 years, wow. Yeah, so almost as long as I've had my podcast. That's a crazy number to think about. I think if you get past 1 year, it's always a blessing, but to have 5, it's quite a milestone, so congrats on that.
It's a marathon, right? So just need to keep running.
Indeed. So looking back to, taking us back to 2014, 2013, or whatever you were at that time, was this a project born out of passion? Were you involved in the industry in some relation and then wanted to, move towards the news outlet that is now 80 Level?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I was never part of the industry in terms of like production wise, so I don't have any games under my belt, so to speak.
Okay.
But I was always kind of around industry, and one of the key jobs that I was doing was actually journalism. So I was writing reviews about games, like I don't know, like Game Informer does, and I was doing a lot of interviews with the developers as well, because I knew English well, and it was very easy for me to kind of start conversations with developers, and that's how I kind of got more and more involved in the development side of things, because it always fascinated me how these projects are being made, and just from the very early on, when they were just pixels running around the screen, when you got into something. I guess like the biggest part where I made like my biggest contribution in that kind of journalism and stuff was when we switched from like PS2 to like PS3 and from Xbox to Xbox 360. Right. And that was a very fun time when there was a lot of very interesting games coming out, and they were all built with new tech. And it was fascinating just, figuring out how's it working? How does it, what drives sort of like this whole industry forward? And I've been working in a couple of magazines. Like back then they still had like paper magazines, which was a thing. I remember when it was, it sounds funny now, but then people were just like, really competitive about it, and there were like bunch of different publishing,
Right.
like across the area where I lived, and they were competing like, oh, we did like this cover of our magazine, and we got that cover on our magazine. So I was very proud when I was able to do like a cover story, and so kind of like my article was at the front of it. And yeah, it's just so funny now because it just doesn't matter. Right?
Looking back, yeah, I know. I mean, it's interesting. I think it's interesting, sorry, to think about the way we used to perceive games. And I think what you were talking about initially was a really like a really interesting time for games as well, because what you're talking about from like the PS2 to the PS3 and the Xbox to the 360, I think was the period in gaming when people were taking games a lot more seriously, right? They were seeing the games industry as something that was very, it was competing against film and TV. It was on that level. The graphics were getting to a point where, the stories they were telling were believable because the people looked like people. So I think that was the crossover you were talking about, the time when things shifted. And funnily enough, as we were talking, I think it's really interesting as well, because that was my original intention before I got into games development as well, was being a journalist. And, I had several YouTube channels at the time that were, game review websites where I would cover games or would review games in my own spare time. And then eventually I got to work for some publications in the UK. I remember one of my first jobs was going to interview one of the PR guys from Rocksteady when they were first revealing Arkham Asylum, when that game was like just about to come out. And also the Wii, I think the Wii Motion, there was an event, it was like the Wii Motion Plus controller thing. But then it was like, yeah, those were the early days of people like starting to really sit up and pay attention to the games industry. And now fast forward to where we are in 2020, I mean, it is such a viable industry that, it's double and tripling the profits of movies and TV combined, I think now. So the last 10 years have been super interesting, right? So you were working freelance. You were at this time. Were you still in the Ukraine? Were you still across in Europe?
Yeah, I was still in Ukraine, and I've been working on a couple of different publications, and they were, I wouldn't say dying, but they were kind of losing their momentum,
right?
And it's been going for like a couple of years, and it became evident to me. So just in order to kind of survive, I did a bunch of other gigs, and I am very, dare I say, like entrepreneurial in my work. So I never stop at like one project, right? And I usually do like a lot of different stuff, just to keep like to pay the bills and stuff. Just so you know,
yeah.
And I had a lot of those projects going on, and some of them were not technically game related, because I was helping guys who were doing a cyber security website. I was working with companies who were doing like ad block software, like the ones that, like, as a publisher now, I hate, because it's kind of it destroys all the advertising on your website, and you can't
the revenue
get any clicks or views for that matter.
Of course.
I've been doing that, and I worked in some other companies, and then I started working with a company that was doing payments in games, and they've grown tremendously, like from that time. So I met their CEO. I had a little like phone conversation with him, and what I was doing for them, I was doing their corporate blog, and they had like a traditional, I guess, corporate blog where they would post something about their partner or some news or whatever. And coming from like a little bit of a different background, I kind of turned this blog into a media. I just almost like unknowingly, they told me like that I need to do like a certain number of posts per a period, right?
Right.
And I just didn't want to do like, whatever. So I thought that each post would have some industry comment from a person in the industry or a person from the company. And it kind of grew and grew and grew, and I started doing like more interviews, or starting talking with more people from local industry and international, and covering different parts of the like development cycle.
Right.
Because just to bring more variety and to get more eyeballs on the platform,
On the stories, right?
Yeah, and so it kind of grew a little bit out of control, and then they called me and invited me to go to E3 or GDC. I don't remember. I think it was E3. I didn't get a visa, and next
Right.
year, and then I went to Gamescom. So I went to Gamescom.
Right.
Met the CEO, met everybody there, and basically the next year they invited me to go to like US for like a longer period. I got a visa,
Okay.
and everything worked out. So I went out for like a little period, couple of months. Then next year I came for like I think I got a H-1B visa at the time. I just don't remember because it's all kind of messed up right now. And so yeah, I got that, and I started basically working for them, but I wasn't doing the blog anymore. Instead, I was doing this the website.
Okay.
And the like 80 level website has a very interesting history. Like in the it just it's you know, it's developed in its own kind of way, unpredictably, I would say. And I would never say that we were able to do something like what we accomplished to do, right? So because it was mostly for me, it was a big surprise actually that it caught on and
it's taken off. I mean, it's interesting as well because, you know, you talk about the brief history of you know, come across and co-founding this website, but then it's also a thing where it's strange how, although it was intention was probably originally game development and games industry, it almost, I mean, for my first introduction to it, and I'm talking like maybe 2017, 2018, even before that maybe, but 80 level was a place where you had your art featured. And that was something that I think, was that something that almost happened by accident, or was that something that was not foreseen as something you were going to do, but it just happened?
I mean, so let's look at this community as a whole, right? So you have a bunch of competition, right? So the market is, I guess, not overfilled, but there is like an abundance of artists out there, right? So it's not like it's very different for, let's say, graphical programmers, right? Or people who are like in hardcore, you know, tech code and stuff. There is a bunch of guys and girls and everybody like who's doing art there, and you kind of get lost, right? Because there's just too much content, and it's similar to any other industry or any other place where there's this problem. This is the same in games, right? So if you go on Steam, like there's like a bunch of things out there, and you don't know what you want to buy and play, right? So I had the same impression when I was kind of starting looking for people. Because I thought that there's just like this incredible abundance of talent, and what we started doing is just picking someone who we like, right? So I think at the core of 80 level is this idea that there is some team behind this project. The team has some kind of vision of what great art is. And we try to promote great art and have it featured like on the platform. So yeah, that's like the main idea, right? We didn't think of it as a platform to feature artists or promote artists in any way. So we wanted to showcase how things are done. And explain like what the tools, what are the processes, like how certain elements or effects or whatever, right? It could be achieved together. And we just want to feature and show a great a great piece of art, a great level from a game, like, or VFX and stuff. And since I've been in this industry for like a long time, so I think it's like almost now 17 years or even more. Just like,
wow.
And I kind of know what I like, so I understand when if I like the aesthetic, then I kind of feel that this is personally, I feel that it's gonna fly and be interesting to kind of check out and so on. And that's how we try to do it. Right now I'm more involved in the like more strategic issue planning, like budgeting and all that kind of stuff, but I hope that my team they have the same vision and they try to at least cherish the work of an individual artist and put it online.
Yeah, I think it's interesting when you talk about even highlighting team members, because I think this is a thing, like, when I use them for a lot of examples, but it's just the one that usually comes to mind because I've either just talked to him about 5 minutes ago. But when I first met Raphael Gazzetti, like, he, at the time, even when he came to THU, was a rock star in the art industry. But now it's getting to a point where Raph is also a rock star outside of his industry. Like, if you look at his Instagram, he has like 600,000 followers, and it's mostly because, he's been dedicated now to pushing these portraits he's done, the fan arts he's been doing on his Instagram, right? He's blown up overnight, like, because there's certain artists in the world that have their own, like, superstar, right? You look at the guys like Boss Logic, who, are an artist in their own right and create artworks, but then people subscribe to his website, his Instagram and stuff, because they just love the content he produces. He's just a really popular content producer. And I think it's interesting when you see a lot of these guys, even like Kim Jong-ji, who, of course now is a rock star outside of his own country and outside of what he does for comics and stuff and visual development. I think it's been a very weird shift where I think early on in the movie industry you had the same thing where, the movies were one thing, but then people started to really pay attention to the actors. So I think it's now the same with games, where these superstar studios are making these amazing games, but then you're like, oh, I'd really love to know the people behind it. For Sir Raph, for instance, it was like, well, who created Kratos? Like, who was the visionary mind behind that? Who was the person in the, in the trenches at Sony who's building them? And then, of course, when he gets a face and a personality, people are, like, even at Lightbox last year, people were coming to Raph's booth, just members of the public, because they were like, I wanted to meet you because you created Kratos, like, and of course Raph is like, as humble as he is, he's saying, it's a team effort, there was many people involved, but, they associate his face with that accolade. So I think 80 Level is definitely seen that trend and people becoming these kind of rock star personalities, and then, making that prominent in the website. So, I mean, in essence, I suppose the question is, what's the kind of plans moving forward for 80 Level? What's the kind of things you think would be some of the main things you want to kind of focus on?
I can't reveal like the whole plan, but I just want to pitch in a little bit about the idea of like a rock star developer and stuff like that. So, funny that you mentioned it. So it is sort of like a double-edged sword in video games.
Yes.
And not a lot of people actually like it. So I did talk with a bunch. All I do is talk with people with the industry, and a lot of them don't feel that this is the correct way to represent the game. And if you're working with a big publisher, and let's say, I don't know, like not to mention anyone, just like in general.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be happy if I would just go around and ask like individuals about how they contributed to some large project, because it make it feels like they were the only people building the game, which is entirely not true, right? Because it's a team effort, and there's like hundreds of people working on it. Sometimes it's thousands. So thousands of people working on some project. And then you take one guy who's doing something like environment art,
Yeah.
and you feature him, and it seems like he's doing all the work. Like, and
Right.
it might seem a little bit discouraging to the other members of the team, and it's
Right.
definitely not something that a studio wants to kind of, send out into the world, right? So,
Of course.
From my experiences, the studios are usually very protective of their talent and their feelings and their attitude toward the whole thing. So they don't want to kind of showcase just one talent,
Right.
But I think what you're saying and why kind of these talents become rock stars and in this kind of new world of ours, right, is because the job market is changing, right? So, and before that, there were not a lot of artists, and even if there were, you could be decent and get hired, right?
Right.
And right now, you kind of have to get yourself out there. You have to, create your own platforms. You need to be featured and so on. And this gives you a much better chance of getting hired, much better chance of getting an interesting project. And that's where all this kind of coming from. I think when people want to get featured and they want to be promoted and so on, I think I don't say that it's a good thing or a bad thing or whatever. It's just like the way things are. And I do think that the same is going to happen with all the other industries, like all the other parts of this production cycle that we see in games. Because let's look at it this way. So games aren't going away. At least I don't see it, right? So there is a bunch of people playing. There are these huge projects like Fortnite, and there were huge projects before Fortnite, like Minecraft and all the others, right? So, and every generation sort of like uncovers some kind of a new thing that they like to play with. And now we have like influencers, we have streamers, we have, I don't know, like these crazy esports tournaments, like the ones that Valve's doing. That's just bonkers, like if you look at it. So it basically means that people are going to make more games, right? And so the question that we need to answer is to think like, how are these games going to be made? Like, from my perspective, as I see it, right? So definitely we'll see more games, and we will definitely see better quality of the content, right? So if let's take like Mortal Shell as an example. So Mortal Shell is a game that is being created by a small team. A lot of the team members are like around the world. It's very kind of like a guerrilla, almost like kind of a production, right? So it's not where you invest like tens of millions of dollars and you lease an apartment, like lease a place somewhere like on the coast, and they start playing, right? So it's like a guerrilla thing, and at the same time, they are very smart about the scope. They're very smart about the kind of content that they create for it. And they're very smart about the art, right? So, and mechanics and everything else. But the art aspect is just incredible. Like, look at that game. It looks like, I don't know. If you didn't tell me who was doing that, I would say it was like Namco Bandai doing something different with the,
of course, but Vitaly Bargarov that's his brainchild.
His designs are incredible, but design is only like one part of it. Like it's always easy to say that, hey, oh yeah, I mean, he's such a talented guy. Yeah, obviously, but at the same time, he's also he managed to kind of manage this whole thing, outsource it, and build it, and create it, and there's like ton of layers on top of layers of complexity that you see in these kinds of projects, and still they made it and they launched it and they sold it, and I think it's successful, right? So we might expect to see more games from him and from his
I hope
team.
so. Yeah.
And at the same time, I think it's a good example for all the other studios that you don't have to go to like a big publisher and pitch your game there. You can just go and build this yourself with Unreal, with all the other tools available right now, and with the workforce kind of like available, right? So, and at a level where they can produce high quality content. And I mean, you don't need to be in some large, game studio right now to kind of learn new things, right? So right now you can be safely, sitting in your apartment somewhere, and you kind of have everything at your disposal. You got 80 level, you got ArtStation, you got GDC Vault, you got tons and tons of tutorials out there. You got CG Master Academy, you got Gnomon,
Vertex, all that kind of stuff.
Vertex School,
and now ArtStation has ArtStation Learning as well.
So. Plus that, right? So I think you have so many resources out there, so it just makes sense to kind of build these games and try your luck and do something, right? Because my fascination with art comes not only from like the visual aspect of it or how it looks, but also from the impression and emotion that comes from it, and the understanding that it could be built into something more. So that's the interesting part of it, right? So because when you see, just even when you're playing your chill hop beats on YouTube and you get some screenshot there, which is like that something's going on there, like in this image, you kind of get engrossed. You kind of want to go into this world and kind of try and play around and see what's there, right? So, and with games, it's so much easier, right? Because if you build a scene in Unreal Engine, it's so much easier to kind of just put a little more effort and build into a product and sell this product. Because I mean, let's face it, it's very easy right now. You just go on Steam or Epic Games, and you can monetize it in. I don't want to monetize this to sound like this, in a bad way, right? So I just think that if you pay so much effort and if you devote so much time into building something and making sure that everything look like top notch and stuff, it would make sense to kind of make this available for other people and give them an opportunity to kind of pay back. So I see as one of the core things that 80 level will be kind of encouraging in the future, and is that we want to encourage individuals or small teams to kind of build their own, build their own games, to build their own projects, to help them, promote them, to find investments for them if those are needed, and just to kind of help this industry grow in new creative ways. Because, sorry, I've been going for a while. Do you want me to stop?
No. Of course, I'm just loving just listening to you talk about just your vision for the industry, because it's always. You talk about the behind the scenes stuff. I think it's very rare you guys do press, right, or you guys talk about the website as like, this is our product, this is our thing. And I think for this interview, it's a great opportunity for people to be like, oh yeah, I never realized that was their mission statement, or that was what they were focused on, or how they kind of came to where they did. But I think it's interesting also, when we talked about like what's the future, I think this is what you said. It's like, it's trying to focus on people being their own islands and making their own content available. We even missed out one of the key resources, which is YouTube, because when you look at people's YouTube channels, because people are so desperate to either get viewers or subscribers, they just fill these channels full of content. And like Jose Vega said in my last interview, he was like, every day you wake up is a great day to be an artist. He's like, because there's so much free content out there, and we even talked about, remember the days when Unreal Engine was paid. You had to buy the engine, you had to pay money to use the Unreal Engine. And now that, plus now even Quixel is all free, right? It's like there's so much content available from day one.
Yeah, crazy. That's just crazy.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, even the thing the other day, like talking on the game side of it, there was the announcement from Xbox Game Pass that they are now including in the Game Pass, they're including the EA Play system, which blew my tiny mind because, you know, talk about a good deal. I mean, I think I pay about $3 a month for that, and there's so much content on the Xbox Game Pass. It's like, it's the Netflix problem, right? There's just so much content, you're lost almost. And I feel like that's also applicable to the art industry for games as well, because as a starting student, right, you sit down and you open the grand thing that is the internet, and you kind of think to yourself, where do I start? You know, where's the best place to go to get certain things, which I think 80 Level does a great job of fine-tuning that stuff, right? Because you guys will highlight like some of the best online schools or some of the best online courses. But it can be overwhelming, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're kind of trying to partner and find the right guys, because I think it's you kind of right that that's a lot. There's a lot available right now, and you might get lost. So it's nice to have an opportunity to kind of structure this thing around something.
Yeah.
So one of the latest things that we've been working on is that we're trying to structure our work around 80 level RFP, and that's one of the efforts that is directed towards kind of like elevating the artists, making the artists more of this rockstar kind of mentality, but without all the negativity, right? So we want to make sure that the talent that we have, that it's great and that it's available for contribution to like a great game project. So it's completely free to join for individual artists or like small studios. But if you want to hire someone from this from our pool, then you have to pay. So basically, it's we want companies to kind of understand and appreciate the fact that there is that the talent actually is valuable, right? So we don't want to see these examples where some weird people are sending out messages on, spamming you with emails saying that, hey, I'm the guy from Blizzard or some other big company. I really want to hire you, so do this art test for me, and which is a scam, right? So they're not from Blizzard. They're just doing whatever. So we don't want to have that kind of conversation happening on our platform. So that's why when we're inviting a partner who, first of all, he invests into these partnerships, and that makes his commitment serious, right? So he's not just there to play around or whatever. And at the same time, he understands that what he's doing is actually that he's there to kind of find the right guy for him, like the right person to create his game, like the right person to enhance the look, right? To the person who has the skills to make the game really shine visually. I think that's important, right? Because we can debate this, but there's no denying that screenshots, in many ways, they sell games, right? So, and if you want to, obviously there's a part of marketing involved and so on, but if you want to kind of attract a modern gamer, you do have to have some art direction behind your project. It can't be just bare pixels or whatever. It has to have some thought behind it. It has to have a certain look. It has to have some kind of a feature that's going to be like, wow, yeah, I like how it looks. I wanna play it, and so on. And as an example, I really like this idea of like Fortnite and Paragon, like that. Those are like big projects from Epic Games, and the one is like tremendously successful, and the other one is like lost in Eternity, and all the assets are currently actually available for free on
Right.
Epic Unreal Marketplace, right? So that's a great example that shows. I mean, there were a lot of different issues, right? But one of the issues was that there was little visual identity in Paragon, right? So it was a good looking game. It was great, but if you go and ask anyone who played it, like, yeah, but what was that about? Take a a pencil and make a sketch. Like, how does it look? And I mean, people would be perplexed. They would be like, "Oh wow, I don't even remember." Right? So think about like how many games do we have that are, we don't even remember what they look like, right? So and you don't want to have that. And at the same time, you now have the flexibility and the tools to make this original look much cheaper. You don't need to like invest millions of dollars to find some kind of like crazy designer who's going to build you something, right? So you can just hire a bunch of talented guys and you come up with something like Half-Life Alyx, right? Or you can twist around some sliders in Houdini and come up with a very interesting look for like Control, like from Remedy, right? That game is just crazy. I mean, visually it's stunning.
Yeah,
And,
I think you're kind of hitting a point there. Like I was talking about how, like even with games now, I think the way, because like we talk about saturation in the market, and I think games are very, and have been for a long time. I mean, since the App Store probably became a thing, have suffered from oversaturation. There's just so much stuff, and I think the outliers now are the stuff that is pushing the envelope, or stuff that, it used to be a thing where game studios or developers specifically, or publishers even, would not take a risk on a company or a weird idea because it was too much of a risk. Like you didn't want to invest, hundreds of millions of dollars and then have that thing blow up in your face. But then, of course, there's been situations with, you look back in 2012 with Double Fine when they launched their Kickstarter and that exploded. That's a documentary I watch all the time, and how they made that game on $3 million. Well, now, of course, it was 6 at the end, but how they launched the campaign, it was funded, and Kickstarter's a thing now. And then even looking at the guys at Ninja Theory, who, when they worked on, I forget the name of the game, the Hell game, is it Hellsing or Hellscape? Yeah. But then they built that game off, I think it was like a £4 million budget or something like that, or something close to that. They were building a lot of their in-house tech themselves and really showing that you didn't have to spend crazy money to make something really impressive. And I think that's the thing that's going to be the future also of a lot of the bigger games, is that the guys who take those risks and are brandishing those teams to really push the envelope in terms of tech without having to spend a fortune. And I think it's the same with, like you were talking with talent. You don't have to now go and recruit people and pay them like, 100,000 a day or whatever would be a crazy number. But, you can go and find these guys who are small, dedicated teams and make something like, like Vitali done, like we just spoke about earlier. And it's great that, also you have outlets like yourself to then highlight these projects when they come to fruition. I mean, I could just even ask you like a simple question of, what did you think of the Wukong trailer from the Chinese studio that came out recently?
Oh, that new one with the
Monkey King.
Monkey King? Yeah. I mean, that was impressive. I mean, we shared it around like the whole company. Mm-hmm. And I think it was eye-opening for a lot of the people to see that the team is about like 20, 30 people or something. Yeah. That they were able to push something like that out. Mm-hmm. And be able to kind of have this kind of visual fidelity at the level where it's just incredible. I mean,
if you guys can't tell, also, by the way, Kirill has a small baby in the background that's walking about. The some of the drawbacks of working from home, but of course.
Yeah. I mean, we love her. I mean, everybody who's on a call with me kind of heard her. So
yeah. But yeah, like so those small teams, that level of fidelity is surprising. Of course, a lot of the people I knew who were in the game industry were talking about it. Like, I can't believe the team's so small. Even that game is just a vertical slice. So,
I mean, still, like, you look at that game. I mean, it's just crazy. like the characters. Look at that. I mean, coming from China, because you would expect if you were like paying attention, like I think PlayStation, they did a lot of different projects with Chinese developers, and they pushed them on their platform. And a lot of those projects at the beginning, they were like, I wouldn't say mediocre, but they didn't really turn their heads, so to speak.
Yeah.
And now this thing comes along, and you would think this was coming from like Capcom or some other
big developer,
and big and experienced game developer, right? Because let's look at Capcom. They were making games like for I don't know, like tens of years, right? So they're like been around, and then comes this new studio, which is like very agile, small, using all the modern tools, and they are able to build something that looks like a real AAA, right? So it's just like it's incredible. It's like Naughty Dog was built in something like that.
Yeah, that level. Yeah. And it's crazy to think even just like how the Chinese market has also affected the games industry as well, because we look at like casting your mind back to when the Hearthstone whole controversy came out with Blizzard, and then people started to realize that there's actually a lot of American owned studios that have serious Chinese investment. I mean, if you look at Riot Games, Riot Games is like, I think it's like 90% Tencent money. I mean, like they have a serious foothold in the American market, probably because they saw the potential of games long before the Americans did.
I don't know.
I mean, it could be a mix of things, but yeah.
I have a lot of friends who are like working in China or have worked in China, and they contributing a lot, and they're like incredibly talented. They're building those crazy new games. So I think we will see a lot of games coming from that territory, and games that are not just online and, for like a pay to win kind of scenarios, but games that are like, boxed titles for like the new Xbox or PlayStation or whatever.
Yeah.
I think those are definitely coming, because, I mean, why would they be investing so much money in it?
Yeah, of course, it makes sense. I mean, of course, and now we're in this weird phase where we're now again in the gap between generations, where the PS5, Xbox Series X are now hitting the stores this Christmas, and then Xbox the other day they just talked about the Series S, which is the smaller, more compact version that's not super powerful, but it's more affordable if people want that option, which I think is great. But then, of course, the PS5's design has been a controversy as well, people comparing it to a space heater. But like, there's now also people coming out of like left field. I mean, me personally, I have been spending a lot of time using Google Stadia, which is an outlier, of course, from Google. People thought when they came into the market last Christmas, when I was picking up my Founders Edition, people were obviously saying, it's only going to be a fad for a couple of months. Now, fast forward almost 12 months later, I have 50 plus games in my collection because I've been a pro member for so long. And to me, the tech is super impressive. When Doom Eternal launched, I was playing it on Stadia 4K 60 FPS over a connection on the internet. It wasn't on my computer. So that's also a thing now. You've got Xbox Game Pass. Yeah. Xbox also now have their own cloud system. So do you think that's also going to be a trend in the game industry? Do you think cloud is going to be a thing for not only tech but gamers?
I was very lucky to be at DICE this year before everything kind of shut down.
Right.
And I was one of the roundtables. Although I'm press, I kind of ended up at the roundtable where there were just like professionals from the industry. And
you are a professional.
And then they kind of said like, please, I mean, don't, But the idea is that I heard a very interesting topic there, and I think the companies that are gonna crack that, they're gonna rule like industry for the foreseeable future, and this company might as well be Google, right? So
right.
The question there is that since there's an abundance of this content, the question of discoverability becomes a pretty big issue, right? So if you find the place where you can easily kind of recommend you titles that are that fit your kind of style or
Mm-hmm.
fit your taste, right? I think if you find that, that's gonna be like a great tool to kind of help sell you more games and so on. So I think Stadia is they are revolutionary not only in the terms of how are they delivering games, right,
Mm-hmm.
but also how are they kind of pushing games to you, and what
Mm-hmm.
data do they gather about you playing games. I think
Right.
that's super important, because if you think it um, in terms of like all those trophies and
Mm-hmm.
achievements and all the other
Mm-hmm.
little elements in your
Mm-hmm.
game console, or like anywhere, like on Steam and everything.
Yeah.
Those are there to kind of keep the players more involved and getting more into the game and spending more time with the game. But at the same time, they also show what do gamers really appreciate about the product, right? So if you
Mm.
look at the AAA games, I mean, how often do you even finish them, right? So
Yeah.
I have been playing a lot of the like Uncharted games. I don't remember finishing any of them. Like, I think I finished the first one, but it's just
Okay.
like at the end of this whole story, and it mostly happens like at the end, right? So
Right.
you're faced with some kind of like boss battle, and you're like, do I really care about like what's going to happen there? I mean, I've seen most of it. It looks nice. I had my fun, so I might just drop it and play something else. And
Right.
Google would have access to all that information much quicker.
Mm.
They would make sense of what to do with that information, right? So
Right.
the minute that you think that you're like, okay, I think I'm done with this, right? They
Mm-hmm.
would like kind of come up around the corner and say, hey, have you played the latest Cyberpunk game? Here you go, like, and it's just gonna be like an internal loop where we would just be glued to televisions forever. And now, I mean, yeah, but I think like discoverability is an issue, and
Mm-hmm.
this is actually one of those things where we want to kind of educate our audience about, right? So
Yeah.
we don't want them to just think about the games just as a terms of like an art, right? So we want them
Yeah.
to see that there's like a bunch of other stuff out there,
Of
that
course.
there's a ton of other things that you need to think about if you want to build like your own product, and if you want to sell it and promote it and so on. Because I
Yeah.
do
I mean.
want to
Yeah.
feel, I just do want them, like everybody who's like into this field, that they build their own, because I think there is just like such a tremendous amount of talent out there with their own vision, like with their own kind of like look at the reality, and it would be nice to have something to kind of be more into that world, to be able
Mm-hmm.
to walk around those scenes, because I really enjoy environment art.
Mm-hmm.
And I love when students kind of come up with those crazy projects with this like. I remember a couple of years ago there was this guy. I think he was from UK somewhere, and
Mm-hmm.
he built this crazy space station kind of thing where there's a huge spaceship kind of like coming up from like a mothership or like a space base, like on
Wow.
Earth, and it was just like
Mm-hmm.
flying in the sky, and there was like hissing and noise and epic music and lights, and I was like, oh my god, like what is this? I show me more, like what happens next. And it
Yeah.
was just like a demo scene that he did like when he graduated, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so he went to work at some company and doing something else, because obviously he has to pay the bills and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it would be incredible if that would be like a full game, even if it's small, if it's
Yeah.
short. Because I think this issue came up like a couple of times ago,
Mm-hmm.
when people are just tired of long games. They don't want to invest like 150 hours into an RPG just to finish it, right?
Yeah.
They're
Well,
playing.
Cyberpunk's in trouble.
Yeah, I mean they're playing PUBG or like Call of Duty Warzone.
Dota, League of Legends,
Yeah, but they're playing like
Overwatch.
for like 30 or like 20 minutes, or maybe
Yeah.
an hour, and then they
Yeah.
get like the whole adventure sort of,
Mm-hmm.
they have like this experience of like being into some crazy thing, and then they can drop off and do something else. And it would be nice to do something like with like smaller games, because it doesn't matter. I mean, I would love to pay like $15 for like a small game like Dear Esther or something like that, you know, where you can just walk around and enjoy the scenery and kind of discover some mystery. But it's just like my personal taste. But
yeah. But that was crazy though when Call of Duty launched the free-to-play system. Like, I know people who were like, how did they justify that? And of course we all know microtransactions. But like, when that, I mean, people were like, I get a free Call of Duty game. Like, I don't have to pay money. I can play Call of Duty for free. I'm not computing this in my mind how this is working. Like, I'm getting this, you know. I think it's just a way how, you know, there's now a whole new system of how games work, and the traditional method sometimes of like, you know, you pay your $60, you play your game, then you bin it. That's kind of like going the way of the dodo. Like, it's, you know, the free-to-play systems have been around for a while now, but like I think they're coming in a system where they're really starting to be like the dominating factors of games. I mean, you still have the traditional gamers games, you know, like they're still making Zeldas and Marios and all that kind of stuff, but you know, the free-to-play market is now allowing people, you know, like a kid with a PC has so many options more compared to what I had when I was younger. And I had like, you know, I can remember installing Monkey Island on discs, like floppy disks. So, you know, you look at now, if you bought a modern gaming PC, which even now you don't have to spend a fortune for, you know, like the new NVIDIA cards, their mid-tier one at £650 is like, you know, twice as fast as the 2080 Ti. So if you're building budget systems now, and then you're looking at the free-to-play market, there's so much stuff that you can play without having to spend any money. Yeah. So I mean, but then that's just the market, right? That's just the way games have evolved. Yep. Pretty much. Okay. Anyway, so I mean, in general, I think the way I'm kind of coming to a close is that, you know, with 80 level and the way it is now, you talked about, you know, focusing on the individual and the projects that they make. What would you say in closing is like a reason that you know, people should get behind 80 level, or why do you think people should now go to your website? What, you know, you talked about this whole artist community system now. Like, what is your website now offering for artists in the community and people in general?
I think for artists, definitely it's an opportunity to learn. We think it's an opportunity to learn about like the new tech, to see what other people are doing, and to learn about the tools and the technology and so on. And that the other major thing is that it is also a place where you can find new talent, or you can get hired, right? So we don't want you to just kind of be there and get featured and that's it, right? So we want to give you the tools where you will be able to, I mean, your portfolio will be seen by the best companies out there who are willing to invest, and they're looking for great people, right? So it's a more natural way of getting hired. And I think this is one of the major kind of like benefits of working with 80 level right now, and getting more involved in the community and so on. We have a bunch of other new things in store, and we will continue to deliver on not just art, but also the tech behind it. And explain, help you guide kind of like in this industry, and tell you like what's going to happen next, where things are going. We will be also adding more information about the job market. So we think, and as part of our mission, we want to make it more transparent, to make people, to help them make better choices, so to speak, right? To help them understand what's a good rate, what is the rate that you don't want to put, you know, not even for your own sake, but for the sake of the community in general. And I think those are like the good directions. And if you are interested, please visit our page, sign up to like 80 level RFP. We'd love to kind of have a look at your portfolio and get you into the system.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, well, I think that's a good place to end it. Just once again, Kirill, just to say thanks for coming on. I'm glad that you gave up your time today to talk to us.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. Sorry for the baby crying in the corner.
Oh no, not at all. No, it's fine. It's the way we're all kind of living now. It's just I'm probably lucky in the fact that, I've got a space for myself where I'm just now, but then, everybody doesn't have that advantage, of course, especially with young kids. So, I can always remember the news story years ago. I think it was a Sky News, I think last year or something, or this year, when people were working from home and the kid ran in the guy's bedroom, asking if he could have a biscuit or something. It happens. There's nothing you can do about kids. But no, it was a great talk just about the industry in general and games. And I think it's also good for me because that's where my origins were, in the games market and games media. So it's always good to converse with that stuff. But if you guys have been listening up to this point and you're still here, thanks for listening and thanks for checking out the episode. I'll give a link to all of the social media for 80 Level, and if you guys want to check it out, just check the description below. We also have a Discord and multiple other things going on, so if you guys also check out the description, there's many links for you there to check out. Just stay tuned. We have more episodes coming. This one hopefully will be one that you will remember for a while, and hopefully you got a lot from this. If you have any questions, just put them down below in the YouTube section if you can. We're also on Spotify. We're also on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. We're kind of everywhere just now. So, but if you guys check out the YouTube channel and subscribe, comment, it always helps us out. And we'll just speak to you guys later. Thanks to Kirill again for coming on, and thanks for 80 Level for being involved. And we'll speak to you guys later.
Thank you so much. Yeah.